Oklahoma's State Department of Education, under Superintendent Ryan Walters, on Tuesday proposed a new rule requiring school districts to collect data on undocumented students in the state. Yes, the agency overseeing the state's public and charter schools announced a proposed rule about a month before President-elect Donald Trump returns to the White House. Yeah, it's not a coincidence, is it? Doesn't seem like it. Oklahoma's proposed rule change would require school districts to report the number of students who are unable to prove their citizenship. And of course, it's not going to be white students that are going to be challenged on this. Okay. Now, that information will be collected by the state. And I think that they'll likely hand it over to ICE to, then be used to not only have the students removed under Donald Trump's deportation plan, but also their families. So here we go. This is laying the groundwork for the deportation of children. So now, wait, hold on. Is this legal? Can they do this? I thought there were laws against asking individual students about their immigration status. Well, here's the thing. Back in 1982, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled in Plyler versus Doe that schools, for one, must enroll all children, regardless of immigration status, and two, that it's illegal to ask individual students about their immigration status. So how will this rule then work? How are they going to get away with this? Well, it's not expected that they will get away with this, but what they've done is write the rule in such a way to then claim that, oh, don't worry, we're not actually asking individual students their immigration status. No. We're going to ask them anonymously, maybe have them check a box or something. And, we're going to do that. And then, we were going to write the rule in a way that it's not actually going to prevent the children from coming to school if they don't have their paperwork. We're still going to allow them to come into the school and everything, because we probably want to track them. Okay. And make sure that they don't go to ground. But as I said, there's a lot of problems with this. Okay. Many problems. For one, the kids that are going to be profiled. I think it's pretty obvious. Okay. They're going to, they're going to give the data to the ICE agents, right? And about how many undocumented students there are at this particular school, right? And then what are they going to do? What are the ICE agents going to do? They're obviously going to look at every child who is not white. Okay. They're going to look into them. They're going to look into their families. And they're going to go from there. All right. And find out whether or not that person and their family is undocumented. And here's the thing, right? According to the Migration Policy Institute, there's only about 6,000 undocumented students enrolled in Oklahoma's public schools. So it's not very many, right? But here's the thing. For them, for the ICE agents, all they have to do is to find out what schools they're going to, how many there are, and go from there. They're actually, basically, it's trying to make ICE's job easier at deporting undocumented children and their families. So, and this is the way that they're going to try to do it. It's all very, very clear what the entire purpose of this rule is. Karen Svoboda, executive director of the Defense of Democracy, a nonprofit that advocates for equality in public schools, told the Oklahoman, quote, "What purpose does such a requirement serve, aside from creating yet another tool to other children from different cultures, and to create a chilling effect on enrollment by minority children and their families?" Well, yeah, I mean, other than making them targets for Donald Trump's deportation force, it could, stop undocumented kids or even documented kids who are from other cultures from getting educated. Now, the proposed measure claims that the data is only going to be used to gather information about how much funding they need, including how many English language instructors they need. You see, this is not a bad rule. We're just trying to get accurate counts of how many undocumented kids there are so that we can properly educate them on, English. Yes, that's it. That's it. But look, in reality, we know what this is about. Remember, Ryan Walters is out there claiming undocumented children are too expensive to educate. They cost us too much money. Back in October, Walters wrote a letter to Vice President Kamala Harris demanding that the Biden administration actually reimburse the state of Oklahoma to the tune of $475 million. Why? Well, because he claims the state spent so much money, all that money, $475 million, educating undocumented students. Really? I'm not really buying that, okay? For one, there's 6,000 undocumented students. If we're talking about a year and not like a whole bunch of years, okay, for a year, 6,000 undocumented students would cost them, what, about $57 million to educate per year, okay? $57 million. Now, the fiscal year 2025 agreement for Oklahoma education sets the State Department education budget at $3.86 billion. So those undocumented students drop in the bucket, okay? I mean, unless he's going to tell us that 6,000 students cost nearly $500 million to educate. And I don't know what kind of time frame he's asking that money for. Is it through several years? Decade? I don't know. Okay. Now, the entire student body of Oklahoma, by the way, in 2022 was about a little less than 660,000 students. Okay. Now, with a per pupil expenditure of $9,508, those 6,000 students, as I mentioned, would come out to around $57 million to educate in a year. Okay. Nowhere near $500 million. Just saying. So their math doesn't really check out. Oklahoma, not exactly leading with the math here. Okay. Even, although, to be fair, the state is not exactly leading on any subject. Unless you're counting one of the worst educated states in the country. They ranked in 2024 49th out of 50 in education. Yeah. So,
whoopsie.
More math, by the way. Undocumented immigrants in Oklahoma, as I mentioned, undocumented students, 6,000 cost about $57 million, right? Undocumented immigrants in Oklahoma paid a total of $227 million in taxes in the year 2022, according to the Institute for Taxation and Economic Policy. So they're more than covering the cost through their taxation. Once again,
whoopsie.
But here's the thing, though. It's not about cost. Okay, it's not about cost. Republicans, for one, I know this is probably going to shock you, probably going to anger others, but
the Republican Party's racist.
I mean, there's that part. But the other thing here is Republicans also want to dismantle public education. Okay, now as part of the movement to do that, they have been pushing states to pass laws to try to block undocumented children from even going to school. Okay, claiming that they're the ones out there, they're harming the schools. But here's the thing. It's actually Republican policies that harm schools. I mean, privatization, charter schools, taking public money from the already defunded schools, the attacks on students. I mean, come on. No, they do far more harm to education and to the schools than undocumented kids who actually don't do any harm to these schools. Okay. But again, this is the reality. Okay. And speaking of reality, this entire plan comes from the bowels of Project 2025. Yeah. In a report titled The Consequences of Unchecked Illegal Immigration on America's Public Schools, the Heritage Foundation, who is the principal architect behind Project 2025, actually proposed this very idea. Collecting data on undocumented students, making that data public for so-called cost analysis, and then requiring the parents of undocumented students to pay tuition in order to attend public schools, right? That's wildly unconstitutional. You can't just, charge people tuition for a public school. They're paying taxes. But again, the whole purpose of doing this is to have it challenged in court. Okay. That's why Walters is doing this law. Okay. Because it will get challenged. In fact, Project 2025's, the group, Heritage Foundation, wrote in a report that such legislation would draw a lawsuit from the left, which would likely lead to the Supreme Court to reconsider its ill-considered Plyler versus Doe decision that they said has, no basis in law. And there it is. There it is. With the Supreme Court being as massively right-wing as it is, this could lead to the end of the Plyler decision and the targeting of immigrant children. Okay. Again, deportation force. Even if that doesn't happen, getting their immigration status, allowing them to be othered, again, both documented and undocumented. If you're not a white person, if you're not a white kid, then it's very likely that you're going to get profiled, targeted, and othered. Not good at all. But that serves their purposes just fine. To intimidate them to leaving their state, not coming to Oklahoma at all, or having them be rounded up by Trump's deportation force. At the end of the day, the whole plot here is sick, it's twisted, it's racist, but not at all surprising to see. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.